The afternoon light slanted through my kitchen window, painting everything amber and gold. I was making cornbread when I heard Emma's footsteps on the stairs, quick, excited footsteps. "Grandma Eleanor?" My 16-year-old granddaughter appeared in the doorway, slightly breathless, holding a faded shoebox. "Grandma, I found something in the attic." I knew that box immediately. I'd hidden it there 43 years ago and spent 4 decades trying to forget it existed. "What have you got there, sweetheart?" My voice came out strange then. She set it on the table. "Letters. Love letters, I think." Something cold moved through my chest. "Maybe we should just put it back." Emma looked at me with those sharp young eyes. "Grandma, are you okay? You've gone pale." I sat down heavily, my hands trembling. These hands, 78 years old now, the wedding ring I'd worn for 52 years still on my finger even though James had been dead for 8 years. Emma had already opened the box. She lifted out an envelope, her eyes widening. "This is addressed to Grandpa. But it's not your handwriting." "No," I whispered. "It's not." "Grandma, what is this?" I looked at that box, at the letters I'd found all those years ago, and felt the weight of the secret I'd carried alone for so long. Maybe it was time. "Sit down, honey," I said. "If you want to know what those letters are, I'll tell you. But it's not a pretty story." Emma sat, still holding the envelope. "Tell me." I took the letter from her hands. The handwriting was feminine, looping and elegant. I didn't need to open it to remember what it said. "Your grandfather was not the man I thought I married," I began. "Or maybe he was exactly the man I married, and I just didn't want to see it. I met your grandfather in 1955, I said. "I was 19 working at Woolworths in Knoxville. James walked in wearing his army uniform, just home from Korea, and he was the handsomest thing I'd ever seen. I could still picture it. The sunlight catching his dark hair, that confident stride, the smile that made my heart skip. He asked me to help him pick out lipstick for his mother. We talked for an hour. He asked me to dinner and I said yes. 3 months later we were married." "That sounds romantic," Emma said softly. "It was romantic. A whirlwind. My mama said I was rushing, that I barely knew him. But I was in love, Emma. So in love I couldn't see straight. I stood and walked to the window. We moved to this farm in 1956. Just a rundown house and 40 acres. We had nothing but dreams in each other. Or so I thought. What was he like? Charming. Hard-working. He'd work from sunup to sundown, then come in and dance with me in this kitchen. He was wonderful. That's what made it worse. He wasn't pretending, he really was that man. He was just also someone else entirely." Emma leaned forward. "What happened, Grandma?" "We had 5 children, your Uncle Robert in 1957, Aunt Margaret in 1959, your Mama in 1961, Uncle Thomas in 1963, and Sarah in 1966. James was a good father. Present at every school play, every baseball game. He loved you all fiercely. But," Emma prompted, "but starting in 1959, James began taking business trips. He said he was consulting for other farms, bringing in extra money. 3 for days at a time, sometimes a week. Once a month, sometimes less. I never questioned it. He always came home with money, with stories, with gifts for the children." I picked up the letter. I found out the truth in 1978. November 15th. Our 23rd anniversary. James had forgotten for the first time ever. I was looking for a place to hide his anniversary card when I found this box in his closet. My hands trembled. This letter is from a woman named Charlotte Morrison, dated March 1959. Let me read it to you. I read aloud. My dearest James, I miss you so much it hurts. Little Michael asked for his daddy 3 times today. When are you coming back? I need you here. We need you. The silence was deafening. Emma stared at me face pale. Michael? Who's Michael? James's son, I said flatly. His other son. The one he had with Charlotte Morrison in Louisville, Kentucky, where he went on his business trips. Grandpa had another family? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Yes. I gathered the letters. After I found that first letter, I read them all. Dozens of them spanning nearly 2 decades. Charlotte wrote constantly. She'd send letters to a P.O. box in town I didn't know he had. I picked up another letter. In this one from 1962, she talks about being pregnant again. A daughter, Jennifer, born 3 months after your mama. Another child? Charlotte sent pictures too. James with another woman and 2 children who had his eyes, his smile. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings. A whole parallel life. What did you do? First I threw up. Then I cried until I had no tears left. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it and went downstairs to make dinner. You didn't confront him? Not that night. I had 5 children depending on me. It was 1978, I was 42, never had a real job, no education, no skills. If I confronted James, if I left him, where would I go? I began pacing. I spent 2 weeks in a fog, making breakfast, packing lunches, all on autopilot. At night, lying next to James, he was a stranger. This man I'd loved for 23 years. I didn't know him at all. Did you read the letters again? Every day while he was working and the kids were at school. Trying to understand how he'd done it, kept this secret so long. Charlotte's letters got desperate over time. She wanted James to leave me, to choose her and their children. She'd write, "When are you going to tell her? When are we going to be a real family?" Maybe he loved you both, Emma suggested. Maybe. Or maybe he was just selfish. He got to have it all, his family in Tennessee, the farm, the respectability. And his secret family too. How did he manage it? Very carefully. His business trips were visits to Charlotte. He told her I was his wife, that he was working up courage to leave me. He told me Charlotte didn't exist at all. I pulled out a photograph. James with a dark-haired woman and 2 children. This is them. Charlotte, Michael, and Jennifer. Emma studied it. She's pretty. She was. That killed me. I wanted her to be terrible. But she just looked normal. Like someone I might have been friends with. What happened when you confronted Grandpa? I waited until December. Wanted one more normal Thanksgiving. On December 1st, I put the shoebox on this table and waited for James to come in from chores. I'll never forget the look on his face, I told Emma. Confusion, then recognition, then terror. He knew immediately what I'd found. I walked to the sink. He said my name, just Eleanor. In this broken voice. I said, "Sit down, James. We need to talk about Charlotte and the children." What did he say? At first, nothing. Then he put his head in his hands and cried. I let him cry. When he stopped, I asked him to tell me everything. And he did. I turned to face Emma. He met Charlotte in 1958 when he really was consulting near Louisville. She was a widow struggling. He fell in love, kept seeing her. Kept telling himself he'd end it. Then she got pregnant with Michael. He felt trapped. Couldn't leave me and the children, couldn't abandon Charlotte. So he decided to keep both families. That's cowardly. It was. Louisville is 3 hours away. Might as well have been the moon back then. No internet, no social media. He kept the two lives completely separate. Supported both families. For 19 years of lies. Did he say he loved her? Yes. He said he loved her and loved me. Couldn't choose. He'd gotten himself into an impossible situation, and just lived in it for nearly 50 years. I sat back down. I asked what he wanted to do. Did he want to leave me for Charlotte? Stay with me? He said he didn't know. 19 years of lying and he didn't know. What did you want? I wanted to go back in time. But that wasn't possible. So I told James he had 2 weeks to decide. Then I locked the bedroom door. Those 2 weeks were torture. James on the couch, the children confused, me moving through the house like a ghost. At the end of 2 weeks, James said he wanted to stay. He'd break it off with Charlotte, choose our family. He got on his knees and begged me to forgive him. Did you believe him? I wanted to, but I told him I needed proof. So I said I was going with him to Louisville. If he wanted me to believe it was over, he had to end it in front of me. ## part 5. The other woman. You went with him? Emma's eyes were wide. January 1979. We drove to Louisville on a Wednesday. James was silent, gripping the wheel. I wondered what I was doing, what I hoped to accomplish. I closed my eyes, remembering. Charlotte lived in a small house. Neat, well kept. A swing set in back, a bicycle on the porch. Evidence of the life James built there. Did she know you were coming? No. When she opened the door and saw me with James, I watched her face cycle through confusion to realization to horror. She knew who I was immediately. What did you say? I said, hello, Charlotte. I'm Eleanor. We need to talk. She stood frozen, then let us in. The memory was vivid. Charlotte's living room filled with photographs of James with Michael and Jennifer. Homework papers scattered. Something baking. A real life, a real family. We sat, me and James on the couch, Charlotte across from us. Nobody spoke for the longest time. Then Charlotte said, you know, about us. What did you say? I said yes, I knew everything. Then I asked her to tell me the truth, all of it. I needed to hear it from her. Did she? Yes. Everything. How they'd met in 1958, fallen in love. How he'd told her he was married but unhappy, planning to leave. About getting pregnant with Michael. James promising to leave me after the baby was born. Then pregnant again with Jennifer, and more promises. I turned to Emma. She believed him for 19 years. Every time he went back to Tennessee, she thought it was temporary. She thought he'd eventually stay with her. Did she know about your children? She knew I existed, that we had children. But James downplayed it, made it sound like we were barely more than roommates. She had no idea how many children, how active a father he was. He'd led her to believe he was miserable with me. He lied to everyone. Yes, that's what I realized sitting there. He hadn't just betrayed me or her. He'd betrayed everyone. Both families. All the children. I sat back down. Charlotte started crying. Big gulping sobs. She kept saying, he told me he was leaving you. He promised. I sat there and felt something unexpected. What? Pity. She'd given 19 years to a man who'd been lying the entire time. She thought she was building a future, but he'd been stringing her along. Did you talk to her? For 3 hours. James tried to interrupt, but I told him to shut up. Charlotte and I compared stories, timelines. We figured out he'd been going back and forth within days sometimes. He'd be here for Thanksgiving, then drive to Louisville the next week for a second Thanksgiving. That's insane. At one point, Charlotte showed me photo albums. Pictures of Michael and Jennifer growing up. Emma, they look so much like your mama and uncles. Same eyes, same smile. James's children, no doubt. Did you meet them? No. They were at school. Charlotte wanted to protect them. What happened then? James spoke up. Told Charlotte he'd made his choice. He was staying with me in Tennessee. He'd support her and the children financially but couldn't see them anymore. It was over. I remembered Charlotte's face, her whole body collapsing. She asked if he loved her. He said yes, but he loved me too and he had to choose. He was choosing his first family. He said he was sorry, that if he could go back and do things differently he would. How did she react? She asked us to leave. Just stood up, crying so hard she could barely speak. James tried to give her money but she wouldn't take it. Said she didn't want anything from him. Just wanted us gone. Did you leave? Yes. James sat in the car with his head on the wheel. After a few minutes, Charlotte came running out with an envelope. She handed it to me through the window. Said, "These are letters James wrote to me. I want you to have them. I want you to know who he really is." Then she went inside and we drove away. Did you read them? Eventually. Love letters where he talked about leaving me, building a life with her. This one from 1967, 2 months after your mama was born. "My darling Charlotte, I count the days until I can be with you permanently. Eleanor and I are like strangers. You are my true wife, my true love." Emma's face was white with anger. He lied to everyone about everything. Yes, that's what I learned. My marriage, my life, all built on lies. Part 6. The long silence. What happened when you got home? Emma asked. I told James the first needed time to think. I moved into the guest room. For weeks I barely spoke to him. The kids knew something was wrong, but I didn't tell them. I remembered those awful weeks. I'd lie in bed thinking about Charlotte, wondering how she was doing if she told the kids. Part of me hated her. This woman who'd had an affair with my husband. But part of me recognized she was a victim too. Did he stop contacting her? As far as I know, yes. I monitored the P.O. box for months. No more letters came. James stopped taking trips. He was home every night trying to show me he'd changed. Did you forgive him? I was quiet. Did I stay married to him? Yes. Did I forgive him? I'm not sure I ever really did. Why did you stay? The children, the farm, my lack of options. But also Emma, I'd spent 23 years building this life. Walking away meant giving up everything. Starting over at 42 with nothing. I looked at my wedding ring. And part of me still loved him. The stupid, naive part that remembered the good times, that wanted to believe it hadn't all been a lie. But it was a lie. Was it? Were the moments he held me at night lies? The times he sat up with sick children? Were all those moments lies? Or were they real, just complicated by the fact that he was having the same moments with another woman? Emma shook her head. I don't understand how you could stay. I'm not sure I do either. But this was 1979. Divorce was stigmatized. A divorced woman with children was pitted. I had no education, no job, no way to support myself and 4 kids at home. You could have gotten alimony. Maybe. But that meant everyone knowing. Our church, neighbors, children. Everyone would know about James's betrayal. I couldn't stomach that. My pride wouldn't let me. I stood and filled the kettle. So I stayed. But it was never the same. I never trusted him again. There was always part of me watching, waiting, wondering if there were more secrets. Did you ever find out what happened to Charlotte and the kids? 5 years later, in 1984, I hired a private investigator. Used money from selling eggs that I kept separate. James never knew. I needed to know if they were okay. What did you find out? Charlotte remarried in 1981. A good man. A teacher named Robert Fletcher. He adopted Michael and Jennifer, gave them his last name. They moved to a better neighborhood. The kids were doing well. That must have been a relief. It was. I'd been carrying guilt about what my decision cost her. Knowing she'd found happiness eased something inside me. Emma accepted the tea I handed her. Did Grandpa know you'd hired an investigator? No. That was my secret, like he'd had his. Maybe that makes me a hypocrite, but I needed something that was just mine. I sat back down. Life went on. The children grew up, graduated, moved away. We had grandchildren, you and your cousins. From the outside, we looked like any elderly farm couple. Happy, stable, together 50 years. But you weren't happy. I was content. That's different, but it's not nothing. I had my children, grandchildren, my home. James and I were civil, even affectionate sometimes. But there was always a wall between us. Did you ever talk about it? Rarely. Like a wound we both knew was there but agreed not to touch. Once, on our 40th anniversary, I asked if he ever thought about them. He said yes, every day. Wondered how Michael and Jennifer turned out. If they hated him. I took a sip of tea. He asked me once if I'd ever forgiven him. This was years later, maybe 2005. We were on the porch watching sunset, and out of nowhere he asked. I told him the truth, I didn't know. I'd stayed, built a life with him, chosen him. But forgiveness? I couldn't give him that completely. How did he react? He cried. Said he didn't deserve it anyway. Said the worst part wasn't losing Charlotte. It was living with what he'd done to both of us, to all the children. The lie had poisoned everything. Emma was quiet. Then she asked, "Did you ever try to contact Charlotte or her kids?" "No. I thought about it after James died. Wondered if they knew he'd passed, if they'd wanted to come to the funeral. But I never reached out." "Grandma," Emma said slowly, "what if they wanted to reach out to you?" Something cold settled in my chest. "Why are you asking?" Emma bit her lip. "When I was going through the attic, I found an address book. It had Charlotte's old address. I looked her up online, Grandma. I found her." My heart was pounding. "Emma, what did you do?" "I didn't contact her directly. But I found her obituary. Charlotte Fletcher died 2 years ago." "Oh." Charlotte was dead. This woman who'd shared so much of James's life, she was gone. "But Grandma, the obituary listed her survivors. Michael lives in Nashville. He's a veterinarian. Jennifer lives in Memphis. She's a teacher." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because they're family. Michael and Jennifer are Grandpa's children. They're Uncle Robert's and Aunt Margaret's and Mom's half-siblings. Don't we owe it to them to let them know we exist?" "Emma, I know it's complicated, but they lost their father too. They never got to say goodbye. They never got to know their other family. Is that fair?" I stood abruptly. "Fair? Nothing about this has ever been fair. You're 16, you don't understand what you're asking. You want me to open this wound I've spent 43 years trying to close." Emma stood too. "Yes. Because secrets and lies caused all this pain. Grandpa's lies destroyed lives. Are we going to keep perpetuating that by hiding the truth?" We stood there, locked in a stalemate. Finally I sat back down. "You're right. God help me, you're right. But Emma, I don't know if I'm strong enough." She knelt beside my chair. "You're the strongest person I know. You survived Grandpa's betrayal. You raised 5 children while he lived a double life. If anyone can do this, it's you. What if they hate me? Then we'll deal with it. But what if they don't? What if they've been wondering about us all these years?" I looked into Emma's face. "Let me think about it. This isn't a decision to make lightly." "Okay. But Grandma, thank you for telling me the truth." Part 7. The family meeting. I called a family meeting for the following Sunday. All 5 of my children came. Robert from Memphis, Margaret from Chattanooga, your mama from Knoxville, Tommy from down the road, and Sarah from Nashville. They came with their spouses and children. They thought it was just a regular family dinner. After we ate and the younger grandchildren were settled with a movie, I asked my 5 children to join me in the living room. Emma sat in the corner. "Mom, what's this about?" Robert asked. At 61 he looks so much like James it hurt. "I need to tell you something about your father," I said. "Something I should have told you long ago." They went still. Sarah reached for her husband's hand. "Your father had another family. A wife, not legally but in every other sense, and 2 children. A son and a daughter." The silence was absolute. 5 faces stared at me in shock. Margaret spoke first. "Mom, What are you talking about? I retrieved the shoebox from the mantel. I found these letters in 1978. Letters between your father and a woman named Charlotte Morrison. They were together 19 years. They had 2 children, Michael, born in 1959, and Jennifer, born in 1962. Robert opened the box, pulling out letters, photographs. His face went white. This is Dad. With another woman. With kids. Your half-brother and half-sister, I said quietly. Michael and Jennifer Morrison. Why didn't you tell us? Your mama asked, voice shaking. Tommy was reading a letter, jaw clenched. He told her he loved her. He told her he was going to leave you. He told her many things. Most of them lies. He lied to her almost as much as he lied to us. Sarah was crying. How could he do this? Very carefully. Very deliberately. For 19 years. Did you confront him? Robert asked. Yes. We went to Louisville. I met Charlotte. I heard her side. Then your father ended it and came home. And you stayed with him? Margaret's voice was incredulous. Yes. Right or wrong, I stayed. I had 4 of you at home, no education, no job. And I loved him despite everything. Does Emma know? Your mama asked. She found the letters yesterday. She's the one who convinced me to tell you. Robert was looking through photographs. Where are they now? Michael and Jennifer. Michael lives in Nashville. He's a veterinarian. Jennifer lives in Memphis. She's a teacher. Charlotte remarried in 1981 and died 2 years ago. So we have siblings we've never met, Sarah said softly. Half-siblings. Yes. Tommy walked out to the porch. I could see him through the window, shoulders shaking. Margaret turned to me, face hard. How could you keep this from us for over 40 years? You're right. You had a right to know. I'm sorry. I made the wrong choice. But I was trying to protect you. Well, it's destroyed now, Robert said bitterly. Everything I thought I knew about Dad, it was all a lie. Not all of it, I insisted. Your father loved you. That was real. But he also had other children he loved, your mama said. Children he abandoned to stay with us. The next hour was painful. Questions, accusations, crying, rage. They were grieving the father they thought they'd known. Finally, Sarah asked, Are you going to contact them? Michael and Jennifer. I don't know. Part of me thinks I should. But part of me is terrified. Or what if they don't hate us? Emma spoke up. What if they want to know their half-siblings? I don't know if I can handle more family drama, Margaret said wearily. You don't have to decide tonight, I said. Take time to process. But I wanted you to know the truth. Finally. ## part 8 The meeting. 3 weeks passed. Then Robert called. Mom, I want to meet them. Michael and Jennifer. I want to meet my half-siblings. Robert. I know it's complicated. But Mom, they're my brother and sister. I don't want to perpetuate what Dad started. I want to try to make it right. How would you find them? Emma did preliminary research. Michael Morrison Fletcher is a veterinarian in Nashville. I can find them, Mom. Do I have your blessing? I was quiet. Then yes. You have my blessing. But be prepared for them to be angry. 2 weeks later, Robert called again. I found Michael. I emailed him explaining who I am. He responded, Mom. He wants to meet. He said he'd always known about us. Charlotte told him and Jennifer when they were teenagers. He'd wondered about us but didn't know how to reach out. My hands were shaking. Oh my God. He wants to meet you too. He specifically asked about you. He said Charlotte always spoke respectfully of you. Charlotte said that? According to Michael, yes. She never blamed you. She blamed James. I felt tears streaming down my face. When? Next month. A restaurant in Knoxville. He's bringing Jennifer. I'm bringing Margaret, your mama, Tommy, and Sarah. He asked if you'd be there. I'll be there. ## Part 9. Reconciliation. The day arrived in October. Emma came with me to the restaurant. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open the car door. Inside, Robert and Margaret were already there. Your mama, Tommy, and Sarah arrived moments later. We sat in tense silence, waiting. Then the door opened and two people walked in. I knew them immediately. Michael was tall, with James's dark hair and build. 62 now. Jennifer was smaller, with her mother's features but James's eyes. 59. They approached slowly. Everyone stood. Michael spoke first. Eleanor. Yes. Michael. Jennifer. Thank you for coming. Then Jennifer stepped forward and hugged me. Thank you for agreeing to meet us. I was crying. I'm so sorry. For everything. For you losing your father. You didn't make those choices, Michael said gently. Our father did. Charlotte always made that clear. She said you were a good woman who'd been hurt. We sat down. For a few minutes no one spoke. Then Tommy said, I don't know how to do this. How do you meet siblings you never knew you had? Michael smiled. A sad smile that reminded me of James. I don't think there's a protocol. Maybe we just start talking. And so we did. Michael talked about his veterinary work, his wife, his 2 children. Jennifer talked about teaching her son and daughter. My children talked about their lives. Slowly we saw the connections. Michael had James's humor. Jennifer had his love of reading. They both had his stubbornness, his work ethic. What was he like? Jennifer asked finally. As a father to you? Sarah spoke. He was good to us. Present. He came to all our events, helped with homework. We never doubted he loved us. While visiting us once a month and telling our mother he was working up courage to leave you, Michael said without bitterness. Yes, I said quietly. I'm sorry. It did hurt, Jennifer admitted. Growing up we'd wait for him hoping he'd stay. Charlotte would get her hopes up every time, and every time he'd leave again. When did she tell you the truth? Margaret asked. I was 15, Jennifer was 13, Michael said. Robert, our stepfather, wanted to adopt us. Charlotte told us the truth about why James wasn't around, that he had another family, that he'd chosen them over us. How did you handle that? Your mama asked. Not well, Jennifer admitted. I was angry for years. At James, at Charlotte, at all of you. I know that's not fair, but I blamed you. And now? Robert asked. Now I understand James was the one who made those choices. You were children just like we were. None of us had control. Michael nodded. Robert, our stepfather, was a better father than James ever was. He was there every day. He walked Jennifer down the aisle at her wedding. James gave us life, but Robert gave us a father. I'm glad, I said. I'm glad Charlotte found happiness. I'm glad you had a good father. What about you? Jennifer asked. Were you happy? I considered carefully. I was content. I had my children, my home. James and I coexisted. But happy? No. I don't think I was ever really happy after I found those letters. Did you hate her? My mother? No. I wanted to, especially at first. But no. She was another woman who'd loved James, been lied to by James. If anything, I pitied her. And later I respected her. She raised 2 wonderful children essentially as a single mother. She never spoke badly about you, Jennifer said. She said you were a victim too. She said if circumstances had been different, You two might have been friends. I wrote her a letter a few weeks ago. She'll never read it, but I needed to say things. One thing I said was that I thought we might have been friends too. Jennifer wiped her eyes. She would have liked knowing you don't hate her. We talked for 3 hours. We shared stories about James, good and bad. We laughed over his terrible jokes he'd told both families. We cried over the pain his choices caused. As we prepared to leave, Jennifer pulled out an envelope. I brought pictures. Of Charlotte, of us growing up, of James during his visits. I thought you'd want copies. Thank you. Yes, I would. Michael pulled out his phone. Could we take a picture? All of us together. Not weird, Robert said. Necessary. The waiter took the photo. We all crowded together. James's 7 children finally united. Emma stood beside me, and I held her hand tightly. As the flash went off, I thought about James. If he could see us now, all his children together, would he be happy? Ashamed? Relieved? I never know. But his children were handling it better than he ever did. I'm 83 now. My hands shake, my eyesight isn't what it was, but my heart is fuller than ever. Emma graduated from University of Tennessee with a degree in family therapy. Her senior project about our family story won awards, helped dozens of people find courage to speak their truths. Robert and Michael are business partners now, consulting for family farms. They talk every day, are true brothers. Margaret and Jennifer co-authored a book about teaching. They're as close as any biological sisters. Your mama and Sarah included Michael's and Jennifer's families in all family events. Last summer we had a massive reunion, over 40 people, 3 generations, all descended from James. The shoebox of letters sits on a shelf in my living room now, no longer hidden. When grandchildren ask, I tell them the story. All of it. Last week, Michael's daughter visited. She sat with me on the porch, asked about James. Did you ever stop loving him? She asked. I thought carefully. No. I never stopped loving him. I stopped trusting him, respecting him in some ways. But love? That's complicated. You can love someone and recognize their flaws. You can love someone and acknowledge they hurt you. Love isn't simple. It's messy and contradictory, just like people. That's beautiful, Grandma Eleanor. That's honest. Beautiful is something else. We sat in silence. I thought about everything since Emma found those letters. 5 years that transformed our family, healed wounds, created new bonds. As the sun began to set over the Tennessee hills, I felt profound gratitude. Not for James's choices, those were terrible. But for my own resilience, for my children's grace, for Michael and Jennifer's willingness to embrace their father's other family. I thought about Charlotte, hoped she was at peace, hoped she knew her children were thriving. And I thought about James. He'd been a flawed man who made terrible choices. But he'd given life to 7 remarkable children. That had to count for something. Grandma! Emma's voice called from inside. Dinner's ready. I stood slowly and went inside. The farmhouse was filled with light and laughter. Emma raised her glass of tea. A toast. To Grandma Eleanor, the strongest woman I know. Thank you for teaching me that truth is worth fighting for. Thank you for showing me that healing is possible. I raised my glass. To family. All of it. The good and bad, the painful and joyful. To finding courage to speak and grace to forgive. To family, they echoed. We clinked glasses, and in that moment, I felt the weight of the past finally lift completely from my shoulders. The secret was told. The truth was known. The healing had happened. James Morrison had lived a double life, and hurt everyone who loved him. But we, his wife, his children, his grandchildren, had taken his legacy of lies and transformed it into something honest and good. That was our triumph. That was our redemption. As I went to bed that night, I felt something I'd wondered if I'd ever feel again. Complete and utter peace. The story was finally complete. The truth was finally told. And in the morning the sun would rise over the Tennessee hills as it always had, bearing witness to human dramas but offering hope for new beginnings. We would go on differently now, honestly, openly, truthfully. And that made all the difference. If you're reading this and you're carrying a secret that feels too heavy to bear, please know this: truth, however painful, is better than living with lies. Secrets grow in the dark, feeding on shame and fear. But when you bring them into the light, when you speak them out loud, they lose their power over you. I carried my secret for 43 years, and those were 43 years of unnecessary pain. When I finally spoke the truth, yes, it hurt. Yes, it was difficult. Yes, there were tears and anger and confusion. But there was also healing. There was also reconciliation. There was also the profound relief of no longer having to pretend, no longer having to hide. James made terrible choices. But I made choices too, the choice to stay silent, to protect his reputation at the cost of my own peace, to hide the truth from the people who deserve to know it. If I could do it over, I would speak sooner. I would find the courage earlier. I would trust that the truth, however painful, would ultimately set us all free. And it did. God help me, it finally did. So if you're sitting with a secret right now, if you're carrying pain that no one else knows about, if you're protecting someone who hurt you, please consider speaking. Please consider trusting the people you love with the truth. They may surprise you. They may be stronger than you think. They may be able to help carry the burden you've been carrying alone. And even if they're not ready to hear it, even if it causes pain, at least you'll be free. At least you'll be living in truth instead of lies. That's worth everything. That's worth the risk. I learned that lesson far too late. But maybe, just maybe, my story can help you learn it sooner. Speak your truth. Trust in healing. Believe in the possibility of redemption. And know that you are stronger than you think, braver than you believe, and worthy of peace. Always worthy of peace. They may surprise you. They may be stronger than you think. They may be able to help carry the burden you've been carrying alone.